Explora el mundo de ciencias sociales en el Tec. La tecnología le ha dado un giro a nuestra realidad. Las nuevas tendencias demandan nuevas soluciones a problemas que antes ni siquiera se pensaban. El mundo enfrenta nuevos retos políticos, económicos y sociales que requieren de la mejor preparación. Aquí los retos no son ejercicios aislados, son tu preparación de todos los días. Define nuevas políticas para un mundo dominado por la tecnología. Redacta nuevas leyes que garanticen justicia para todos. Desarrolla nuevos modelos económicos desde la sostenibilidad y la prosperidad. Crea las nuevas regulaciones entre los hombres y las máquinas. Desarrolla iniciativas globales que impacten de forma local. Haz del emprendimiento público un modelo para la generación de riqueza y la prosperidad compartida. Aprende con un alto rigor analítico para generar soluciones sustentables y medibles. Convierte las plataformas digitales en tu mejor herramienta de emprendimiento y apoya la toma de decisiones que impacten a la sociedad. Explora, elige, libera tu potencial transformador.
Hello, good evening to everyone. Thank you for your presence today. It is my honor to invite Ambassador Miguel Ruiz Cabañas Izquierdo, Director of the SDGs Initiative at Tec de Monterrey, to welcome everyone on board.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you very much. This is a webinar which is a part of the Action and Awareness Week of the University Global Coalition. We will hold it in English because that's the official language of the University Global Coalition. The coalition is a coalition of universities from all over the world committed to the promotion and implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. The coalition counts today with 166 members, as I said, universities and research institutions from all regions of the world. By the way, one of the products of the University Global Coalition is the now famous Student Action Toolkit, the SAC, that was a contribution made by the Iniciativa sobre los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, the SDGs initiative of the Escuela de Ciencias Sociales y Gobierno, the School of Social Sciences and Government of the Tec de Monterrey. Probably, Karina, we can make a link to the SAC for the information of the participants in this webinar. Today, the webinar is called Accelerating Climate Action, Tech's Commitments within Race to Zero Initiative. Let me say what is the Race to Zero initiative briefly. It's a global campaign to rally leadership and action in the education sector to zero emissions. This Race to Zero initiative has 1,100 universities involved with a reach of more than 10 million students throughout the world. The initiative implies or imposes on the universities participating in it 4 specific points. 1, make a pledge to reach zero emissions as soon as possible, by mid-century at the latest. 2, make a plan in 12 months with actions to be taken towards achieving net zero emissions as soon as possible. 3, proceed with the implementation of your plan, defining interim targets. And 4, report publicly progress towards achieving interim and long-term targets. Today, we have a fantastic group of participants in this webinar. Let me introduce them. We have Cynthia Menéndez García-Crespo. She's an expert on low emission development, mainly focused on urban development and sustainable mobility. with solid experience coordinating projects and working with multinational and multidisciplinary groups. Cynthia has more than 10 years experience in sustainable development and climate change, working on projects in Mexico and other Latin American countries. Currently, she coordinates the Sustainable Cities programs in the World Wildlife Fund, Mexico, leading the alliances for climate actions in Guadalajara, Monterrey, and Mexico City. Ms. Menéndez has a degree in biochemical engineering by the Metropolitan Autonomous University in Mexico and holds a master's of biotechnology by the University of Queensland in Australia. Last January 2022, Cynthia was recognized by Forbes as one of the 30 most sustainable minds in Mexico. Congratulations. The second participant is Perla Martínez. She has a bachelor degree in law from Tecnológico de Monterrey and a master's degree in international law from the University of Chile, Heidelberg, and the Max Planck Institute. She is currently the project manager of the Sustainable and Climate Change Plan of Tecnológico de Monterrey. She has been a professor of environmental law and sustainable development at the Tec de Monterrey. She served as head of the Environment Office of the Municipality of San Pedro Garza Garcia. She was the coordinator of the Monterrey Alliance for Climate Action, an initiative of the World Wildlife Fund. Our third participant will be Mr. José Antonio Torre Medina Mora. He has a bachelor's degree on industrial and systems engineering from the Tec de Monterrey and an MBA from Harvard Business School. In 2008, he joined the public service as chief of staff to the general director of ProMéxico. In the year 2010, he was appointed as chief of staff to the Mexican Minister of Economy. In 2011, he was appointed as Undersecretary of Competitiveness and Business Regulation in the Ministry of Economy. In 2013, he joined Tec de Monterrey, where he currently serves as Director of Urbanism and Sustainability. José Antonio is member of Nuevo León's Council for Strategic Planning. In 2021, he was invited by the governor of Nuevo León to coordinate the Metropolitan Collaboration Initiative. Finally, we have a student, Valeria Soto. She's a student of Sustainable Development Engineering at Tec de Monterrey. In 2020, she was elected president of her student association and later elected president of the Student Association Council of the Student Government. As a climate action advocate, she has been involved in activities and projects such as the Alliance for Climate Action in Monterrey, organizing a National Sustainability Congress for students, proposing reforms to the General Law of Climate Change in Mexico, social entrepreneurship programs, and as a panelist in multiple students' forums. She's currently a campus interim in the 2025 Sustainability and Climate Change Plan of Tec de Monterrey. We will start with the participation of Cynthia Menéndez. You have the floor, Cynthia, for several minutes.
Thank you very much.
We will be very happy to listen to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here today and talk to you a little bit more on the Race to Zero campaign. So the next one, please. Just to let you know why I am here. Well, as the ambassador said, I represent the World Wildlife Fund, which is WWF here in Mexico, and maybe you recognize this organization by the panda, our logo. And we are the biggest conservation organization in the world, and we have been working in Mexico for over 20 years now. And we've been leading one initiative that is called the Alliances for Climate Action, or ACA, in Mexico, and we started in Monterrey, in the metropolitan area of Monterrey, in 2019. So we've been working a few years now on this initiative. And what we do in this network is a global initiative with over 9 countries now having their own alliances for climate action. And what we want to do with this initiative is to drive ambitious climate action at the local and the national level, increasing the public support for addressing the climate crisis that we are facing right now, but also engaging national and local governments to decarbonize faster. So we invite different actors of the society, meaning universities, NGOs, local governments, and enterprises to join the Alliances for Climate Actions. And in 2021, we were recognized as an accelerator of the Race to Zero campaign. Next one, please. So as the ambassador already said, the Race to Zero campaign is a global campaign started by the climate champions in 2019. And what the main purpose of this campaign is to rallying the non-state actors to take rigorous and immediate action to have emissions by 2030 and to have neutral emissions by 2050, to deliver a healthier, fairer, and zero carbon world in time. So this is the largest alliance at the subnational level ever, that it never before we had an alliance like this. And it's a very ambitious one. It sounds that 2030 is just around the corner, so we have to take action really, really quick. So the next one, please. And as also the ambassador already mentioned a little bit of this, but I want to share some numbers with you because the size of the campaign is quite big. And what we want is that most of the actors at the global level are committed to this campaign because it's the level of ambition that we need to really comply with the 1.5 goal established in the Paris Agreement. So at the moment, we have over 5,000 companies around the world, around over 1,000 cities or regions in the world, and educational institutions as well. No, we have a very good number with big universities, over 1,000 all around the world. So, and also we have many, many partners as the ones you can see on the screen, because most of these are like NGOs or associations around the world that are helping the other actors to join the campaign, to understand what is the campaign, what does that mean for them, and how they can comply to the commitments they get when they join Race to Zero. Next one. And where does it come from? As I said before, it was a campaign led by Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Muñoz, which are the two global champions for COP25 and COP26, because they realized that the national commitments of all the countries that have signed the Paris Agreement were not ambitious enough to reach the 1.5 target. So we are not on the right track with the commitments at the national level. So what do we need to get there? So they decided to mobilize all the non-state actors, which means not the national governments, but also all the subnational governments, enterprises, the financial institutions, universities, NGOs, etc. So that's a leadership, like a bottom-up leadership, and it's been quite successful because it is crucial now to have action at the subnational level. Next one. And this is why exactly, that the civil society and non-state actors can and should act, but just now, because we don't really have much time. So we really have to show action at the local level immediately to face the climate crisis that we are already facing. So it's time for us to show commitment and action at the subnational level. Next one. So why to join? Obviously, because as I said, we are not on the right track to meet the Paris Agreement with the national commitment. So that's why we need to show action and commitment at the subnational level and with the non-state actors, which means not only the government, it's not only the government responsibility, but also all the other actors should be doing something in their own arenas. But also it is good for you to join. No, it is not only a commitment that you get, but also you get some support, which is mainly having strengthening of capacities. We do communities of sharing tools and knowledge, particularly for universities. Is a good way to share your experience with other universities around the world, even in Mexico, in Latin America, or all around the world. So it's a good way. You have the support of Second Nature, which is the organization that supports university to go through the climate action plans and to the Race to Zero campaign. But also you have access to powerful communications material and play a very relevant role in the conferences of the parties. No? So that was the case for Tec de Monterrey, and I think Perla will tell you a little bit more on this next. Sorry about the noise in the background. But in COP26, Tec de Monterrey have a very good role showing what they are doing in this global session. No? So you have some benefits, and obviously this year is one of the most decisive years in climate action history. So you should be part of this historical moment. Next one. And also the ambassador mentioned a little bit of this at the very beginning, but I just want you to be really clear on what commitments do you get when you sign the Race to Zero, or which ones are the responsibilities you get by joining the Race to Zero campaign. So this is pretty much the same for all the different types of actors that get into the campaign, and they are called the 4 Ps. So the first one is the pledge. So the highest level inside the institution, in this case, for example, the universities, has to sign a document saying that they commit to the Race to Zero. No? So they just have to do this pledge. And it's important here to mention that you commit to get carbon neutrality by 2050, but you have to work on having half of your emissions by 2030. So you have to cut your emissions 50% by 2030 at least. So it is not only about compensating your emissions, your current emissions, but also reducing what you are emitting right now. So this is very, very important for you to have in mind. And for that, obviously, you need a plan. You need to know how you will do that. No? For that, you need your GHG inventory. And also your plan with a short, medium, and long-term vision. So in that case, for universities, as I said, Second Nature helps you and helps you to go through this process. So you will have some technical capacities, and you will have peer-to-peer learning, for example, with the Tec de Monterrey. And then you have to proceed and take immediate action. You have to show that you are already doing what you say in your plan, because it's not like, okay, in 10 years, I will do that. No, you have to show immediate action, because we don't have time. It's already 2022, and we have to commit this to 2030. So we have less than 8 years to do so. So the time is really, really a good thing that you have to consider and to show action immediately. And finally, you have to publish everything that you do. This is more about transparency. And obviously it's important for universities, but also for governments and companies, because we need to know what they are committed and what is the progress they are having in these commitments. So for us, publishing is crucial also in this Race to Zero campaign. And we also have some tools to help you to go through your reporting and monitoring systems. So we can go deeper after this, and we can share all the information on which tools will you have access if you join the Race to Zero campaign. And the next one, please, is just the last one. And as I said, we are different organizations working in this together. And here you see some numbers of the different participants around the world. No? In Mexico, we have over 90 participants now, including universities, municipal governments, state governments, companies. So the movement is getting stronger, which is very good, but we still need more commitment from different actors. So you, as I said, you will be supported by different organizations, in this case, the Race to Zero for university and colleges, for example, no? But also there's a specific support from different organizations for businesses, for example, with WRI, with us in WWF, and the city's Race to Zero as well, with different organizations helping you with all the technical issues that you may face during the process. And I think that's all for me, so I will give the floor to Perla. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you for explaining to all of us what is the Race to Zero campaign and how everyone may participate. But before passing the floor to Perla, let me just mention that you have raised there are two questions for you. One is, in previous slides, two names were mentioned, Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Muñoz. What organization do they represent? And the second question is, I will read it exactly as it appears. Is this an individual level? So I guess Regina Monroy is asking if one can participate only as a person, as an individual. But I pass the word to you, Cynthia, to respond to these questions.
Sorry.
Microphone.
Yeah, sorry. It always happens. No, yeah, Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Muñoz, they are the climate action champions at UN. Nigel represents the UK government, and Gonzalo Muñoz represents the Chilean enterprises, because both of them were participating in the COP25 and COP26. So in COP25, Chile had the presidency of the COP, so that's why Gonzalo Muñoz was there, and Nigel Topping was representing the United Kingdom, which was the president of the COP26. So both of them represent subnational and non-state actors in the UN climate negotiations. And the second one, I guess I understood the same as you did, Ambassador. So you cannot join as a person in this because it is hard to quantify like our contribution as individuals, no? So what you can do if you want to join is to get in touch with the different organizations, mainly the NGOs that are participating, but also the universities. I think if you are a student, the best way to join and to be part of this international and big movement is to join your own university and convincing them that they should join to the Race to Zero. And once they join, if you can do that, then be more active on how to create solutions that I think Valeria will give you some examples on what they are already doing in Tec de Monterrey. So you can be very active on this agenda, maybe not joining or committing directly to Race to Zero, but also getting involved with your organizations or universities.
Thank you, Cynthia. Now I pass the floor to Perla Martínez, Manager of Sustainability and Climate Change in Tec de Monterrey.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Cynthia. Well, just to give a brief background, in case you're not familiarized with Tec de Monterrey. Tec de Monterrey, it's a Mexican private university that was founded in 1943 in Monterrey, Mexico. Monterrey, Mexico, it's a city in the northern eastern part of the country, about 2 hours away from the US border, which a very strong industrial DNA. So we have currently many pollution and climate change negative effects in our city. Just to put you in like a place and so you know what Tec de Monterrey is and where it was founded. I think it's also very important for you to know that we are a multi-campus university with 29 campuses across Mexico with over 92,000 students. And the academia and all the programs of Tec de Monterrey are based in six schools. We have over 600 researchers, lots of academic programs, lots of teachers, and obviously lots of alumni. And as you can see, many programs, academic programs. The next one, please, Vale. Just also to know, for you to know, or for me to anticipate what I will be explaining, what I'm going to try is to show the experience that Tec has had by being a member of the Alliances for Climate Action and also to be part of the Race to Zero campaign. My goal or my intention is to show what us as universities can do in climate action and especially in these initiatives, and hopefully to engage more universities in these in these initiatives. Tec de Monterrey has engaged in climate action for decades in the operation of our campuses, in our infrastructure, in the research. The groups of investigation that exist have been founded since decades ago. But 2019, it's a landmark or was a milestone for Tec in the increase of its climate ambition. We actually call it that 2019 was the year it's the year of climate ambition for Tec. And this was so because obviously the effects of the climate crisis became much more present, more visual. People were experiencing these effects in real life. And the evidence and the science became much more, the reports, the IPCC reports, started to really raise the voice and set the alarms, saying we have very limited time frame to take action. We have to act, and we have to act now. So Tec de Monterrey was not deaf to these alarms, to these calls, and also to the social unrest and the social demands that started to call lots of voices in Monterrey, in Mexico, and in the world, saying, obviously from our students, saying we need to take climate action. What is Tec doing in climate action? So this sort of, this background, or with having this happening, WWF reached Tec de Monterrey and invited us to become a strategic ally in the formation of the Alliance for Climate Action in Monterrey. So hand by hand, WWF and Tec de Monterrey, we engage in this sort of mission of speaking very loudly about climate action in Monterrey, in all the sectors of our city, with local governments, with business leaders, with other universities, and with NGOs. Also, in 2019, it was like to publicly give a position about the matter. Tec de Monterrey signed a public and international letter recognizing climate change as a crisis and an emergency. And if we can go to the next slide, please, Vale. After 2019 being this sort of, like I said, this the year of climate ambition for Tec de Monterrey, and after having declared an emergency, we started taking real action, no? And one thing was obviously, besides becoming an ally for the Alliances for Climate Action, we signed we set our carbon neutrality goal it was first by 2050, like Cynthia said, under Race to Zero, like you have to, one of the most important commitment to get into Race to Zero is to set your carbon neutrality goal by 2050 at the latest. And that's what Tec de Monterrey did. It was its first commitment. But fortunately, and recognizing the part that Race to Zero says, if you can do it before, you should do it before, and you should do it before, because that is what we need to addressing the climate crisis. No, so Tec took the decision to reach or to set its carbon neutrality goal 10 years earlier, and currently we have the commitment to reach our carbon neutrality by 2040 under our commitment before Race to Zero. And obviously, now that you have a very ambitious goal, because it's not easy to achieve the carbon neutrality this soon, Tec de Monterrey started taking like real steps, no? And this is like the part, like Cynthia said, Race to Zero has these 4 Ps when you pledge, but then you have to plan. And when you plan, you have to set also the inside machinery that could actually implement a plan. So another very important step that Tec took following 2019, it was to create a sustainability vice presidency. And this was so because transforming an institution to be carbon neutral needs to be achieved by having engaged the very high level officials of Tec de Monterrey. So a vice presidency was created having this in mind, like to achieve these transformational changes that will lead to decarbonization needs to be at the highest level of decision makers of our university. After the vice presidency was created, José Antonio Torre, who will be speaking right after me, together with Cynthia Villarreal, who is the head of the Sustainable Development Office at Tec de Monterrey, and a group of people. I still wasn't part of the team at Tec. I joined very shortly after the release of the plan. But José Antonio with Cynthia and a team of my team members of my area, the 2025 Sustainability and Climate Change Plan was publicly launched. So we also, this was Tec's a step in the second P of Race to Zero. No, our plan was set. It was created, and it has a very ambitious aspiration. What we want is for Tec to be like a model of a university, both in sustainability and action and climate action. Our plan is huge, but I'm going only to give you some of the main characteristics of a plan, and I think it's very interesting to see the difference of a climate action plan of a university looks different than an action plan of a city government or of a company. No, it's very normal to see I'm sorry because I didn't have the chance to translate the image, but it's very common for a climate action plan to have a mitigation and an adaptation area, right? Because true mitigation is where you decarbonize, where you reduce your strategies to reduce your ecological footprint. your emissions, but also your water consumption and your waste generation, etc. And in adaptation, it's where you create the resiliency to adapt and to better face the climate crisis effects. So that's pretty common in a climate action plan. But being a university, we what we like to stress out, what we're very proud about our plan is that it has these other areas like culture at the center, education, research, and outreach. And in our culture area, what we seek is to be able to make that change management, like that transformational and systemic changes that an institution has to go through in order to be able to reach its goals in mitigation and in adaptation. For instance, how we prioritize, how we spend our money, how we choose our events take place as well. So it's very, like, we believe that it's through culture that we will be able to achieve our goals in decarbonization and in the creation of resiliency. And also, well, I like being part of a race to zero, being part of Race to Zero and having a commitment on the Race to Zero. We also have this interim target. Like you saw that our climate action plan is to 2025 and our carbon neutrality goal is by 2040. So our interim target of emission reduction by 2025 is to reduce our emissions in half. So we're a bit more ambitious than what the Paris Climate Accord requests. So we're working really hard to achieve it. It's not easy. The energy public policy in the country, it's very complicated right now, but we are working towards that goal. Vale, can you move ahead? So like I was saying, in across our plan, we have our outreach area, right? And it's through outreach how we are trying to invite other institutions, such as businesses, such as governments, other alliances, universities, and NGOs to also become a part of Race to Zero. We believe that as a university and all universities, we play a key role in the decarbonization, not only because of our spirit of academic institution and producers of science and in knowledge, but also because we have all these partnerships and connections across society as a whole. For instance, the Tec de Monterrey has a board of trustees, which is composed by CEOs of very important companies in Mexico. And we are also in meetings and in presentations with the board of trustees, we're inviting them and we're showing them how we are working really hard to be carbon neutral, and also inviting them to join from their institutions, like for companies to have also a carbon neutrality commitment. We're also working very closely with governments. Jose Antonio will be explaining a little bit more about that following my participation. And we're also inviting other universities, both in Monterrey, also in Mexico and across Latin America. Go ahead, Vale. So when we're like presenting and speaking with CEOs, with governmental officials from cities, from municipalities, or from the state government, it hasn't been easy calling for climate action and calling for calling for or asking for the setting commitments on carbon neutrality. So just to give you a few, this is like a few, like the sort of the reactions that we hear many of the times that we're speaking about race to zero and carbon neutrality. One of the things that we have found is that there's usually like a lack of knowledge of what you can do. A lack of knowledge from, for instance, from the municipalities. Like it has been a process, like being able for them to see how from the legal powers that are within municipal governments, what climate action is and what they can achieve. Usually it's more understand like it's under national, or the national, the federal government has more or the entire responsibility. There's a fear of commitment because it feels that it's too ambitious, because it's not easy, because it requires a lot of transformation. Usually you can also find some limited capacities, resources, funding, the capacities of the personnel. It's like sort of what we have been finding. Also, one first reaction from people when you are explaining race to zero and carbon neutrality is like saying this is not my problem because this is a problem of the federal government. No? Or you should first tell the federal government to do this or do that, and then you can come and tell me to do this and do that. And well, basically that's it. That's sort of the reactions that we have had. But this has changed a lot. This has changed over the time. Like 2 years ago, you could have these reactions much more frequently. And now we're seeing more and more commitments on the race to zero and for carbon neutrality commitments aligned to the Paris Agreement being set. And I will give the word to José Antonio Torre to speak more about those success stories after having faced these obstacles, what the success stories that Tec de Monterrey has been a part of.
Thank you, Perla, and thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Ambassador, for the invitation. And let me tell you a story about what has happened as the university takes its outreach and its accelerator commitment to its full deployment. So the Tec de Monterrey has a role at the Metropolitan Collaboration Initiative in Monterrey. This initiative includes 14 municipalities of the metropolitan area in Monterrey. Their majors are present in that initiative. The governor of the state of Nuevo León is present. This metropolitan area, the Monterrey metropolitan area, is the second largest metropolitan area in Mexico, with 5.3 million people living in this metropolitan area. And this initiative has three priorities: urban planning and mobility, security, and climate change. So this was a fantastic opportunity to move the municipality and the state government to sign and to commit to race to zero. So 5 months ago, none of these municipalities nor the state government were members of, were committed to race to zero. But now, and can you give me the next slide, please? Now we've been successful to have 11 municipalities already added to the Race to Zero initiative, and 3 more have already committed. We haven't had the signed document, but they have already made a public commitment that they will be part of the initiative. The state government of Nuevo León has already signed, and also 5 Mexican universities. So 5 months ago, none of these national governments were part of the initiative. Now, almost all the metropolitan area of Monterrey is part of the initiative, and we will move forward in order to make this coalition of the willing. Those concerns that Perla mentioned, that I don't have the capabilities, I don't know exactly what to do, are real concerns. This is a tough issue. But when they understand that they're part of a bigger team, that they can share resources, that they can share knowledge, that universities, NGOs are gonna be part of a bigger movement, then the national governments are more willing to be part of this. So that's what we've learned, that's what we found. And now, as Tec de Monterrey, we will be very close to this, the metropolitan area and the state of the government of the state of Nuevo León to really push the initiative forward and to make the commitments achievable and make it a reality. Also, Perla mentioned that we used a fantastic opportunity we had a couple of weeks ago, where we had this Board of Trustees meeting at the Tec, where Inés Sáenz, the Vice President of Sustainability and Inclusion at the Tec, invited this over 60 members of the Board of Trustees of Tec to sign the Race to Zero initiative. And so we will be reporting on the results of that initiative. But this is just a brief report of the acceleration program of the university, taking any opportunity we have to really get the Race to Zero program be adopted and be committed by as many subnational governments as we can, and as many companies and NGOs as we can. So we're happy for this. As I told you at the beginning, 5 months ago, none of this was a reality. Now, almost all of the metropolitan area of Monterrey is Race to Zero. We hope in the next couple of weeks to be announcing that the metropolitan area of Monterrey, all the municipalities have committed to Race to Zero, and then really get the actions rolling to make it a reality. So this is only an example of what can be achievable when we all make our commitment to accelerate the Race to Zero program. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks to Perla and to José Antonio for these great presentations that detail all the actions and commitments made by the Tec de Monterrey as a key partner of the Race to Zero initiative. Now we have some minutes for the participants in this webinar to raise questions, comments, or observations to the wonderful panel that we have had today. Any one of you wants to make a comment or a specific question? If no one of you has a question, I have a question. Can you tell us, Cynthia, Perla, or José Antonio, how do you compare Tec de Monterrey actions with other universities or institutions that you know, either in Mexico or outside Mexico, that have made the same commitment to Race to Zero? I mean, how other universities or research institutions are doing in this regard? Maybe, Cynthia, you can enlighten us on this.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador. Well, just I will say that the example in Mexico. In Mexico, at least Tec de Monterrey is the one leading the climate agenda. No, it's the first university that joined the Race to Zero campaign. And as far as I know, is the only one that already have a climate action plan. All the other universities that have joined and have committed to the Race to Zero campaign are still willing on how they can start doing the inventory and the planning. So definitely the Tec de Monterrey is leading this agenda in Mexico, and all around the world, we have other universities that are already working on this and committed to the Race to Zero campaign. But definitely in Mexico, Tec de Monterrey is the first one really showing action on this sense.
Thank you, Cynthia. Well, it's always so far a pleasure to hear that we are the leaders in Mexico, we at the Tec de Monterrey. And I think our institution is really taking it very seriously. And maybe we can, just lead the way to other universities and research institutions to proceed with the same kind of commitment in the future. Now, let me give the floor to Valeria Soto, because she's a wonderful student at the Tec de Monterrey, and I think she wants to make specific proposals. Valeria, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, and thank you to Cynthia, Perla, and Jose Antonio. I am always super happy to work with you, and I am really, really thankful for this opportunity, because I think there is a lot to say when it comes to student engagement. The first thing I want to say is a fact that I think most of the people don't know. That is that youth is a UN-recognized vulnerable population to the effects of climate change. And I think this is something that does not come easily to our mind because, I don't know, it's not like what people tell us that vulnerability looks like. But I will tell you this fact. The younger you are, the less you have contributed to the emission of greenhouse gases, but the most likely you are to suffer the effects. When we talk about climate action and climate change and everything, we have seen that we're talking about 2030, 2050. And how old will you be when 2030 arrives or 2050 arrives? As for myself, I will be 30 years old and 50 years old. And then you think that the future that you foresee when you are 30 and your project of life, it's in a future that you don't know how it would look like. I think this is something that, even though you know about the recognized verbal population, that we know that is common, and that has made the tendencies change and show that youth is not making decisions with this in account, not sustainability and climate crisis awareness, which is super, super good. But there is something that I think that sometimes comes like this wall in front of us, that is like, when we graduate, when we are in the workforce, when we are an engineer, when we are anything you want, it's like, until I am that, I can do something. But the reality is that you don't have to wait. This image and this scenario that we have ahead of ourselves give us the possibility and everything to demand action to make sure that the future we have later is as good and that give us the possibilities that we have today. With that future stake, we need to take action and to be fully informed, which is super, super important, both as a citizen and both as a consumer. I want to keep sharing some things with you. As Cynthia said at the beginning, as an individual, you cannot join Race to Zero, but you can demand the organizations that are around you to do it. For example, I am super, super excited and proud that my university is part of Race to Zero, because I feel like I am Race to Zero too, right? And the plan and the sustainability and climate action plan, I feel like I am included, and we are working towards every student is included and feels Race to Zero too. But also we have NGOs around us, and also our citizen or governments, and you can lobby with your governments to make sure that they are Race to Zero too. They can and should join the campaign, and all of these excuses and all of these reasons that Perla told us before, well, now we know some answers. Now we know that there are resources. We know that there are alliances. So we can demand them to set their public carbon neutrality commitment. But also there are some things that go beyond that we can do now as an active student, as an active young people, to go further than that. And I will give you some ideas of some things I have done myself, some things I have seen other people to do that have inspired me a lot. Some of them are, for example, to join a student group. It can be at your university, it can be outside, focus on climate action. but also if a student association is not near you, you can be the one that found it. And this has been, joining a student association has been the reason that I am close to these people, to Perla, Cynthia, José Antonio, because when I was president of my student association 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to join the Alliance for Climate Action. So it was another platform to raise our voices and say, hey, we are here. Thank you so much for the space, and also I am here to help. There are a lot of opportunities there to increase your voice and be louder and louder in the things that concerns us. There are also a lot of NGOs that need volunteer and need all of the capabilities and the inspiration and the dreams and all that moves us towards climate action. I will assume that people that are here are part of the university, and if not, don't worry, but ask them if they have a carbon neutrality, and if not, and you are in the power to demand it and to ask for it, and also to contribute to them to achieve it. We have seen all the work and all this success and everything that a university can do to make this a reality. Make your university part of this. Make your university one of the success stories, and you can be part of that too. You are directly represented by them. Go ahead and tell us about if it works. I hope really that it works, because it's super, super awesome and exciting when it does. You can lobby with your decision makers and be an active and informed citizen. And this, I will recommend you to reach your SDSN youth chapter in your country, because I had the opportunity to talk with the Mexican Senate, I think 2 years ago, and it was through them to the SDSN youth. And there are a lot of SDSN youth chapters in the world, and maybe one of them can help you to do this, and also to volunteer with them and participate with them. And in terms of being a consumer, I think this is one of the most taboo topics that it comes to us young people, but about habits and being an informed customer, to demand accountability and to be really well informed about the decisions that you're making, because there is power on them too. And more in another suggestion I can give to you is to complement your studies in sustainability studies. I study sustainable development engineering, so I see these topics every day, but I have seen so many people complement their majors with masters, or here in Tec de Monterrey, we have like these free subjects that you can choose what you want to study or which topics you want to see. And they take sustainability because of everything of the green economy and the fourth industrial revolution and everything that comes with the sustainability being further more important in the agenda. So that is something I can put you, like you can do now. And also to ask your teachers to put the topic of climate change in your curricula, because every major, every profession, everything you do can either better situation or worsen our situation. So we want to be sure that from our university, since we are being educated, that we know how to reach this carbon neutral world in 2050. And I think this will be all of my contribution. I will be super glad and super happy to keep in touch with you if you want something else, if you want to hear some of the stories that I have in this journey. But I'm super excited to have people here hearing and trying and achieving to be a better citizen and to contribute to the climate action. Thank you again for the invitation to the Tec de Monterrey team. And thank you so much, Ambassador, also.
On the contrary, thank you very much, Valeria, for this fantastic presentation and very dynamic and concrete things that any student of any university can do to promote not only Race to Zero, but a sustainable way of life and studying. Now we have several questions. Let me go to these questions that are within our chat. Mr. Julio Dominguez has raised this question. What are the indicators to monitor progress in the action plan? I think this question is addressed to Perla or to José Antonio. What are the indicators to monitor progress in the action plan?
Thank you, Ambassador. Maybe I can say something, Jose Antonio, and if you want to add anything, go ahead. The Climate Action Plan currently has 3 main indicators. One of them being the advancement percentage on our carbon neutrality. We have our annually the inventory of our gases de efecto invernadero. I forgot the name of
greenhouse gas.
Greenhouse gas emissions. I'm sorry for the blooper. We have our inventory, and annually we revise that inventory, and we revise our advancement on the percentage of reduction and the percentage of advancement towards carbon neutrality. That's one of the indicators. We also have very closely related to that indicator our percentage of renewable energies being increased. And the other 2 global indicators of Tec's Climate Action Plan is our score in a ranking that is called Green Metric. Green Metric, it's an international ranking that evaluates the performance of universities worldwide in climate action and in environmental initiatives, both in operations, in energy, in education, etc. That's one of that's the second of our indicators, the ranking in Green Metric. And we have a third one that it's in development. This indicator, it's an index of change in culture, and it's being developed by a group of researchers at Tec de Monterrey. And this will, the objective of this indicator is to measure the cultural shift, which I was mentioning, like saying the culture, it's the heart of our plan. So that's how we want to measure if we're actually changing both the institutional culture and culture of our community also at an individual level. That index is in development. Our goal is to have it in place by mid this year. I don't know if you want to add something.
Just to include that, you put in the chat the link to the program, the Tec program, and in that program, in that document, it's a public document, it's a public commitment to move forward. And in that document, there's also specific indexes that we will be following up in order to achieve our goals. So take a look at that and consult that, and it's gonna be a moving program. We're gonna learn about that, and we're gonna increase our goals, and we're gonna move forward to commit to achieve our goals. Just to give you an example, a couple of months ago, 50% of our energy we consume at the institution came from renewable sources. Now it's 63%. So we were able to add around 13% additional renewable energy to our portfolio of energy. So we're moving forward, and we're working every day to move forward to become a model of a sustainable institution.
Thank you, Perla. Thank you, Jose Antonio. Well, we have run out of time, but we have a last question, maybe in 1 minute. Any of you can comment on this question. What methodologies are being used to diagnose the environmental and social aspects in municipalities? Do either ACA, Monterrey, or RTZ have specific methodologies to achieve this goal? Any comment from you? And this is our final question because we have run out of time.
I can give, I can start with the answer, and Cynthia and Jose Antonio, you can complement. I'm going to speak in the metropolitan area of Monterrey because that's what I know. That's what I'm familiarized with. And I used to work in San Pedro Garza Garcia, which is also in the metropolitan area of Monterrey. This is a pending thing that municipalities have to work on. We see it as a first step. Like the plan has been to have the Race to Zero commitment in place. And then by using the resources that will be together, like jointly achieved, we are hoping to be able to have a climate action plan for the metropolitan area. And that climate action plan will have to include the methodologies and the indicators to measure what David is saying. Currently, some municipalities do have and make their reports of advancement of SDGs, but not all of them do. And I think it's a bit informal how they do it, and it's not a mandatory thing that they have to do. So that's that's in the following actions that have we'll be working to achieve now that the Race to Zero commitments have been put in place. And Cynthia, you were going to say something.
Yes, just very quick that for the inventories, for example, there's a standard protocol called the greenhouse house protocol. I just put the link in the chat now so you can have a look at it. It is about companies and cities. So the best thing is that they follow this protocol for the inventories, but for the plans there are no specific guidelines, let's say, no, for as Perla was saying, it's more open for them to do something tailor-made for each specific city or each specific state. But C40, which is a global organization, also has a good standards on how the climate action plan should look at the municipal level. So you can also have a look at the protocols that C40 has. And there are other organizations also working with cities such as ICLEI, WRI, and we in WWF as well. And particularly for the Race to Zero campaign, we have this association between these different organizations called the Cities Race to Zero. And in there we have a methodology to evaluate as well the performance of the cities and checking that they are really aligned to the 1.5 degree goal in the Paris Agreement.
Thank you, Cynthia. Jose Antonio, do you want to say something, to add something? Or?
I think that's responded. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have reached the final of this fantastic webinar. I am very, very happy to that we had a very high level presentations made by Cynthia, Perla, Jose Antonio, and Valeria. And I think our participants are really leaving this webinar richer than the moment they arrived 1 hour ago. We have learned about the text commitments towards Race to Zero, but we have also learned how to proceed if you are a student, if you are a professor, or if you are just anyone interested in participating in this Race to Zero emissions in a year much before the mid of the century. So thank you very much. We can say goodbye to our wonderful panelists with a rounding applause, if you can join me in this applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose Antonio. Thanks
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Explora el mundo de ciencias sociales en el TEC. La tecnología le ha dado un giro a nuestra realidad. Las nuevas tendencias demandan nuevas soluciones a problemas que antes ni siquiera se pensaban. El mundo enfrenta nuevos retos políticos, económicos y sociales que requieren de la mejor preparación. Aquí los retos no son ejercicios aislados, son tu preparación de todos los días. Define nuevas políticas para un mundo dominado por la tecnología. Redacta nuevas leyes que garanticen justicia para todos. Desarrolla nuevos modelos económicos desde la sostenibilidad y la prosperidad. Crea las nuevas regulaciones entre los hombres y las máquinas. Desarrolla iniciativas globales que impacten de forma local. Haz del emprendimiento público un modelo para la generación de riqueza y la prosperidad compartida. Aprende con un alto rigor analítico para generar soluciones sustentables y medibles. Convierte las plataformas digitales en tu mejor herramienta de entendimiento y apoyo para la toma de decisiones que impacten a la sociedad. Explora, elige, libera tu potencial transformador.
Muchas gracias, Karina. Gracias, María Julia. Ya María Julia ya se fue. Entonces, yo creo que estuvo muy bien, Karina. Muchas gracias. Yo